Hey guys, it's me, here to do another session of Green Angel by Alice Hoffman. So, here we go. I could tell who my guest was without one syllable. A boy who ran from the fire. A boy in search of his mother. When Ghost curled up at the boy's feet. When Onion didn't growl. When the sparrows ate crumbs from his hands. When the hawk perched on his shoulder. I knew I could let him stay. I told him he could sleep in the barn. I brought out blankets and pillows. He could drink the water from the well. He could eat from the tins of food I had traded for in exchange for silver and gold and share the soup made from asparagus. He could look at the stars with me whenever he liked. When I told him my name was Ash, he nodded as though the word was a gift. Because he couldn't tell me his name in return, I called him Diamond. He seemed to like that name as well. Something inside him shone through the dark, even though he kept his face hidden, hood pulled down. When he'd gone off across the yard to sleep, I thought I perhaps dreamed him up. A hallucination made out of loneliness, black ink, sorrow. Perhaps he'd never existed in the first place. But even when he'd gone and was already sleeping, I could see something bright everywhere he'd walked. It was almost like having moonlight again. Diamond didn't speak, and I could hardly see. Maybe that was why we got along so well. I, who preferred stones to flesh and blood, who kept away from people, could not spend enough time with Diamond. I knew him in a way I couldn't explain. The way I knew silver from gold, the way I knew the weather. When we listened to the wind together, we understood exactly what it was saying. When we sat close in the dark, we could feel each other's broken hearts beating. Together, we stopped being hungry. We ate the bread I baked. Diamond fixed soup out of beans and rice, simple but filling and tasty. Once I asked him if his mother had taught him the recipe. Although he didn't speak, I could tell that the answer was yes. He took out the little painting of her, so carefully rendered in watercolors, and he didn't need to say more. I knew he was thinking of her every time I heard him hum a certain tune, a lullaby she'd surely taught him. I hoped for his sake that his mother had managed to find safety when the fire began. There was only one thing we didn't agree on. Diamond believed that the garden would grow. The topsoil was ashy and gray, and I told him not to bother with it, but Diamond wouldn't listen. All winter long, he carted the bad soil away. He spent hours picking out stones, which I brought to the piles from the darkest woods. Black for my mother, silver for my father, white as snow for my sister, a pile of moonstones. You shouldn't even try, I told him each time he set to work. Nothing will ever grow here. I showed him the looters' tracks and the broken fences, the pumpkin seeds left by the birds, the rock-hard earth. He just kept at it. I could hear him raking at night, as if he could work away his grief. For some reason, I slept easier when I heard him. The sound of his working became as familiar as the wind, as rainfall, as the beat of a heart. I still looked for Heather Jones, worried that she would disappear, but it was easy enough to find her. During the daylight hours, she was usually asleep under the bridge, her skin mottled from too much gin, her braids in her hair undone, her clothes dank from rainwater. I left pots of diamond stew for her, along with bottles of clean well water. I knew Heather had been drinking from the ashy shallows of the river. She'd been eating mud just to fill her stomach. Heather laughed sometimes when she recognized me, but it was the kind of laughter that sounded like a cry. I could tell that she danced too close to the fire at the forgetting shack because she'd singed the hem of my mother's blue dress. She didn't seem to notice, and I didn't mention it. She was in a haze, trapped in the foggy ground between forgetting and living. Still, we understood each other. If the world had been a different place, we might have even been friends. One day, Heather stared at me and grinned. She almost looked pretty. "Something's changed," she declared. "You don't look the same." It was still me, my black tattoos, my leather jacket, my thorns. But Heather was right. I could feel a change inside, one I didn't yet comprehend. When I went to my neighbor's to take her fresh water and fish I'd caught with my net, I asked if she had thought the same, the girl with ink on her skin. The woman didn't say a word. Instead, she led me to the staircase, where there were the ashy portraits I'd cleaned. Now, my neighbor told me to try and guess which one she was. I studied the portraits carefully, but I had no idea which she might be. They looked familiar, but one girl was too pretty, one was too sad, one was too silly to be my neighbor. Guess, my neighbor insisted. Go on. Which one do you think I am? Still, I could not tell. Look closely, she said, but even when I did, I had no idea. At last, I gave up. Who are you? I asked. Each and every one, my neighbor told me. She shook her head as though I were a child rather than a girl about to turn 16. Did you think nothing ever changed? Was it Diamond's arrival that had made the difference? Did it make it easier to listen to the wind with someone beside me? Wasn't the wind just as cold and harsh? Why would I feel any less abandoned? Wasn't I still alone in my thoughts? I already had the company of Onion and Ghost and the sparrows and the hawk and my neighbor on the other side of the hill. What did I need with this boy, who ate more than his fair share and filled the air with clouds of dust as he worked in the garden? It was a puzzle I couldn't solve. After a while I stopped trying. Diamond was there, like the white dog and the sparrows and the hawk. A guest in my house, nothing more. He was there, like the wind and the stars up above. I didn't understand for the longest time why I let Diamond stay. I watched him painting with the few watercolors he had left, and I felt as if something inside of me was a part of that paint, that white, singed paper, that paintbrush. I didn't understand until one day I went into the woods to search for chestnuts. That was when I realized I was singing. My voice sounded thin and unfamiliar to my own ears. The next afternoon, I was wringing out the wash to hang on the line when I realized I was dancing. My feet seemed too graceful to belong to me, even in my father's old boots. The following evening, while I was polishing the last of the silver to trade, I happened to gaze into the platter my mother always used on holidays. Even I could see there was a smile on my face. Something had indeed happened to me. This was not the way I ordinarily behaved. I was not someone who danced and sang and smiled at her own reflection. I was Ash, the girl with thorns on her clothes, the one who preferred stones to people. When I next went to my neighbor's house, I took along a pot of stew that Diamond had made. The old woman uncovered the pot and breathed in the scent of beans and rice. Then she told me to sit down. She ladled out a bowlful for herself and one for me. Did the boy cook this? She asked as she took one bite. When I nodded, she looked at me closely, considering my face. The old woman had boiled a cup of tea for me, brewed with the stinging nettles that grew outside her door. I would have guessed the tea would be too bitter to drink, but the taste was perfect. It quenched my thirst completely. You say your name is Ash, the woman said thoughtfully. I say it because it's true, I told her. I had a tickle in the back of my throat, that feeling that some people get when they tell a lie. Quickly, I drank more nettle tea. Is it? My neighbor laughed then, as if she knew something I didn't know. She had already told me that everything changes. Now she wanted me to know more. She brought out a magnifying glass. When I peered through the glass, I could see that one of the black vines tattooed around my ankle had turned green. It was the green of apples when they're first in leaf. In my mouth, there was a taste of apples, sweet and sharp. What do you think has happened? The old woman told me. Think hard. It's a trick of the ink, I told her. Nothing more. All the same, I walked home slowly. I tried to figure out the puzzle I had become. I carefully tied the scarf of thorns around my neck. I kicked at the dust with my heavy, nail-studded boots. I didn't sing or dance or smile. I spat on the ground. I was Ash, after all. But the taste of apples stayed with me. Alright, guys, I think that's it for me today. So leave a like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more. Let me know what you thought, what you want to hear next. So, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.